Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Caitlin and I read books. So I'm in a new location and I have a new haircut. This is my first video in my new apartment and I'm going to talk about all of the books I read from January to July. I've read 10 books, so I read roughly a book a month, which is why I haven't made a video in a long time. But I'm excited to be back to share all the books I've read. The first book I read, or the first book I finished this year, was Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. So this is a horror novel written by the same author of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. And I got this book in a blind date with a book order. This is not normally a book I would read, and I don't normally read horror, but I did not find this book scary at all. So Goodreads tagged it as a thriller, but it's like 750 pages and it's very slow paced. I would not say anything about it. It was thrilling. The brief synopsis is a woman named Kate. She's a single mom. She and her 7-year-old son Christopher flee in the middle of the night to escape her abusive boyfriend, and they move to this really small town. After moving there, Christopher disappears for a week, and when he comes back, he's different. He knows a lot of things that he shouldn't know, and now there's a voice in his head telling him he has to build a treehouse by Christmas, or really bad things will happen. So that's the blurb that's on the back of the book. The main character is Christopher. However, there are dozens of side characters whose perspectives you get that, and it doesn't really further the plot of the book in any way. It's one of the reasons the book really just drags on, that and just how very repetitive the book is. And I do think the book could have been cut in half and still had the same themes and told the same story. There is discourse online about whether or not this book is secretly Christian fiction. It's not marketed as Christian fiction, and I personally don't think it is. There are a lot of very heavy handed biblical references. I don't think it was the author's intention that it was supposed to be a Christian novel. So I gave this book 2 stars. I was compelled to finish the damn thing, so I think that counts for something, but I really didn't get invested until page 400, and that's the size of a normal book. So I can't in good faith recommend it to anyone. It was really quite a slog to get through. The next book I finished in February was LA Woman by Eve Babbitt. I read this for my book club. This is a very brisk 160 pages. There's not really a plot, it's more just vibes, and because of that, I don't really remember what happens. I just know it's about a woman named Sophie who lives in LA and she doesn't want to do anything. She doesn't want to have a job or get married or have any ambitions. She just wants to have fun. And I believe it just follows her through one summer. I or it might be when she's older and she's looking back on her youth. I honestly I can't really remember. And that might make you think it's not a good book if it didn't have that much of an impact on me, but I remember having fun. I did think this book was funny, and I gave it 4 stars. So I definitely liked it. The next book I read was James Acaster's Guide to Quitting Social Media. If you don't know who James Acaster is, he is an English comedian. He's one of my favorite comedians. I thought this was going to be a nonfiction self help book laced with humor, but it turns out this was entirely fictional, and it took me an embarrassing couple of chapters to figure that out. So it's the fictional story of how James Acaster decided to give up social media by burying his phone in tar and then moving to a remote castle with a bunch of weird people he meets along the way. I did think it was funny. A lot of the book was very humorous, but it was just too long for a fictional book with a very flimsy plot. I should have listened to it on audiobook. It was narrated by James Acaster, and I think I would have found it more enjoyable. But yeah, I don't really recommend it, and I did not give it a rating. The next book I read was Tourist Season by Bryn Weaver. This is a dark romance. It's the first book in a new trilogy. It's a spin off of the Ruinous Love trilogy. You don't need to read any of those books to read this book, though. So, this one's about a woman named Harper. She lives in a seaside tourist town called Cape Carnage, where they take like Halloween really seriously. And a man named Nolan comes to town to visit under the guise of a vacation, but he's actually there to kill Harper because she killed his brother in a hit and run accident years ago. But as he gets to know her, he realizes she isn't who he thinks she is, and they become very attracted to each other. But yeah, I had a really fun time with this. It was very campy. It was really funny. It was sexy. And I just got the second book in the series, Harvest Season, from the library. So I'm really excited to continue on with the story. I actually liked it better than all of the Ruinous Love books. And I think I gave it 3.75 stars. The next book I read was Accomplice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This is the third book in the Assistant to the Villain series, so I can't really say too much because it's the third book in a series. I really like these books. I think they're really fun and whimsical. I really like the characters and the world building. I don't read a lot of fantasy. When a book has a map, I usually lose interest, but I do like these books. I will say this is probably my least favorite in the series, but the fourth book comes out soon, I think like next month, so I'm really excited to finish this series. I think I gave this book 3 stars. The next book I read was How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shailene Thompson. So this is a rom-com slasher about a woman named Jamie who goes to the speed dating event, and then the lights turn off, and then when they turn back on, a bunch of people were murdered. And Jamie is getting her PhD in film studies with a specialty in horror. So with her superior horror movie knowledge, she uses that to survive this real life slasher movie and save as many people as she can. So this book was very campy, but it was really funny. I had a really good time. I found the plot twist to be incredibly glaringly obvious, but I still enjoyed it. The book is incredibly heavy handed. Every single character is a reference to a horror movie character or actor or film director. There are 3 different characters named Jamie, Lee, and Curtis. I gave this, I think, 3 stars. Yeah, it was fun. Had a good time. The next book I read was Piranesi by Susanna Clark. This is another book from my book club. It's about a man called Piranesi who lives in something called the House. And the house has infinite rooms and a labyrinth of halls and many statues lining the walls, and it connects to the ocean somehow. And there's only one other living person called the Other, and he asks Piranesi to help him find the great and secret knowledge. But while doing so, Piranesi uncovers a bunch of secrets about the house and who he is. So this book started off very slow. I had a really hard time getting into it and imagining what the house looks like. I kept picturing that scene in Labyrinth. But once the book picked up, I started to enjoy it more. It's very well written, it's very unique. I just don't think the book was really for me. It's just not the type of book I usually read. So I did not give it a star rating. The next book I read was Yes Please by Amy Poehler. This is a reread for me. I read it when it first came out, I think in 2015 or 2016. This time I listened to it on audiobook, and I had way more fun listening to it on audiobook. It's narrated by Amy Poehler. There's a lot of content that wasn't in the print version. For example, there's a chapter that Seth Meyers wrote that he reads himself, and they also have a little conversation before he reads the chapter, and that was fun. The very last chapter of the book, Amy Poehler read in front of a live audience, and you could hear them laughing. I'm a huge fan of Parks and Rec, and I loved Amy Poehler on SNL, and this book just felt like a warm hug. It was really fun. The next book I read was I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This was also a reread for me. When I first read it, I was very confused. I enjoyed most of it, but the ending befuddled me. I've seen the Netflix movie, and I thought that was a pretty good film adaptation. And upon rereading it, I feel like I understood it more. A very brief synopsis: it follows an unnamed narrator going on a road trip with her new boyfriend to meet his parents, despite thinking of breaking up with him. And as the trip goes further on, very bizarre things begin to happen. This book is marketed as a thriller, but I don't think it is. I think it's quite experimental. It is eerie and suspenseful, and I think the less you know about it, like, the better. So I really enjoyed rereading it, and I gave it 4 stars. The last book I finished this a couple days ago, Real Life by Brandon Taylor. This follows a young man named Wallace, and it takes place over the course of a few days during the summer, right after Wallace's dad died. He is a graduate student at a very white university in the Midwest. Wallace is Black and gay, and he does not fit in with the rest of his peers. And there's not really a plot, it kind of just follows him struggling to navigate through life and its obstacles over the course of a few days. So I think this was really beautifully written. I would recommend looking up trigger warnings before reading this book. It covers a lot of very heavy topics. It took me a long time to finish this book because every time I picked it up, I would feel really bad because it's very tense. There are no moments of levity, there's no rest or reprieve. All of the people Wallace interacts with are cruel or complicit. There's really no likable characters. I do have a lot of sympathy for Wallace, though, but not for anybody else in the book, really. That being said, even though it's very tense and sad, I don't think anything was put in there for shock value. I think it all had a purpose. I gave this book 4 stars, and if you want to read a really sad book, I would recommend reading this over A Little Life, which I hate. So those are all the books I finished. I DNF'd Joyland by Stephen King. It's less than 300 pages, but I got to page 100 and literally nothing had happened. It was all exposition, and I just decided I don't care. It's about a college student named Devin Jones who takes a job at a theme park called Joyland the summer after his girlfriend breaks up with him. Nothing happened the 100 pages I read. Like, I assume someone gets murdered and scary stuff happens, but I guess I'll never know. And the other book I did not finish, but I plan on picking back up later this year is Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. It's upstairs and it's very heavy, so I don't feel like getting it. But my friend Marley and I were supposed to buddy read this in March. And Marley finished it in 3 weeks. I think I was on page 20 by the time he finished it. It's 1,000 pages, in case you didn't know. So I just kind of lost interest, even though I did enjoy those first 20 pages. Marley also makes videos on books. He made a video about Infinite Jest that's spoiler free. It's very good. I recommend checking it out. Mark my words, Marley. I will read Infinite Jest this year. Anyway, those are all the books I read from January to July. I will hopefully make another video a bit sooner. Thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one.